Yashodanandana Vraja Jana Ranjana Yashodanandana Vraja Jana Ranjana Yamuna Tira Vanachari Tira Vanachari Radha Madhava Vihari Gopi Jana Vallabha Giridharadhari Yoganandana Vraja Jana Ranjana Yoganandana Vraja Jana Ranjana Yamuna Tira Vanachari Radha Madhava Kunja Vihari Hare Krishna Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama Hare Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna Hare
की, अनंत कोटि वैष्णव वृंद की, नामाचार्य दास ठाकुर की, प्रेम से बोलो श्री कृष्ण चैतन्य प्रभु नित्यानंद, श्री अद्वैत गदाधर श्रीवासादि गौर भक्तवृंद की, श्री श्री राधा कृष्ण गोपिनाथ श्याम कुंड राधा कुंड गिरिवर्धन की, गजबो वृंदावन धाम की, मथुरा धाम की, द्वारकापुरी धाम की, पुरुषोत्तम क्षेत्र जगन्नाथपुरी धाम की, श्री मायापुर धाम की, गंगामयी यमुनामयी की, भक्ति देवी तुलसी देवी की, समावेत भक्तवृंद की, और विष्ट संबल devotees, all glories to assembled devotees, all glories to assembled devotees, all glories, all glories, all glories to Shri Guru and Shri Gauranga. Om Ajnanandasya Shalakaya Chakshurunmilitam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namah. Shri Chaitanya Manavishtam Sthapitam Jena Bhutale Swayam Rupa Kadamyam Dadati Swapadantikam Vandeham Shri Guru Shrikapadamadam Shri Gurum Vaishnavamscha Shri Rupam Sakadara Sahagadapuranandikam Tam Sajivam Sadvaitam Savadutam Paridanasaitam Krishna Chaitanya Devam Shri Radha Krishna Padan Sahagalita Shri Vishakhantiramscha Namo Vishnu Padaya Krishna Krishnaya Bhutale Shrimate Bhaktivedanta Swaminiti Namine नमस्ते सारस्वते देवे गौरवाणी प्रचारिणे निर्विशेष शून्यवादी पाश्चात्य देशतारिणे नमो महावदन्याय कृष्ण प्रेम प्रदायते कृष्णाय कृष्ण चैतन्य नाम्ने गौरत्विषे नमः। हे कृष्ण करुणा सिंधो दीनबंधो जगत्पते गोपेश गोपिका कांत राधा कांत नमोस्तुते तप्त कांचन गौरांगी राधे वृंदावनेश्वरी वृषभानुसुते देवी प्रणमामि हरिप्रिये वाञ्छाकल्पतरुभ्यश्च कृपा सिन्धुभ्य एव च पतितानां पावनेभ्यो वैष्णवेभ्यो नमो नमः। जय श्री कृष्ण चैतन्य प्रभु नित्यानंद श्री अद्वैत गदाधर श्रीवासादि गौर भक्तवृंद हरे कृष्णा 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 हरे 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 राम 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 हरे हरे। ओम नमो भगवते वासुदेवाय ओम नमो भगवते वासुदेवाय ओम नमो भगवते वासुदेवाय नारायणं नमस्कृत्य नरं चैव नरोत्तमं देवीं सरस्वतीं व्यासं ततो जयमुदीरये नष्टप्रायेष्वभद्रेषु नित्यं भागवत सेवया भगवत्युत्तमश्लोके भक्तिर्भवति नैष्ठिकी कृष्णाय वासुदेवाय देवकी नंदनाय च नन्दगोपकुमाराय गोविन्दाय नमो नमः। Welcome all of you for the Srimad Bhagavatam class this morning. Please recite this fourth canto for 14th chapter, text number 2. वीरमातरमाहूय सुनितां ब्रह्मवादिनः प्रकृत्य सम्मतं वेणम् अभ्यसिञ्चन् पतिं भुवः वीरमातरमाहूय सुनीतां ब्रह्मवादिनः प्रकृत्य सम्मतं वेणम्
Abhyashinchan patim bhuvaha Veeramataramahoya Sunitham Brahmavadinaha Prakritya sammatam venam Abhyashinchan patim bhuvaha. Prakritya sammatam venam Abhyashinchan patim bhuvaha Veeramataramahoya Matajis Veera Vena Mataram Mother Ahuya calling Sunitham of the name Sunitha Brahmavadinaha the great sages learned in the Vedas Prakriti by the ministers Asammatam not approved of Venam Vena Abhyashinchan enthroned Patim the master Bhuvaha of the world. Translation. The great sages then called for the queen mother Sunitha, and with her permission they installed Vena on the throne as master of the world. All the ministers, however, disagreed with this. Shrutva nripasanagatam Venam atyugrasasanam Nilayur dasyavaha sadyaha Sarpatrasta Ivakavaha. It was already known that Vena was very severe and cruel. Therefore, as soon as all the thieves and rogues in the state heard of his ascendance to the royal throne, they became very much afraid of him. Indeed, they hid themselves here and there as rats hide themselves from snakes. Purport by His Divine Grace, A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada ki, when the government is very weak, rogues and thieves flourish. Similarly, when the government is very strong, all the thieves and rogues disappear or hide themselves. Of course, Vena was not a very good king, but he was known to be cruel and severe. Thus, the state at least became freed from thieves and rogues. We are reading from Srimad Bhagavatam, the 4th canto, 14th chapter, the story of King Vena. Through these purports, Srila Prabhupada is teaching the world many vital principles of governance. The duties of an ideal king, the duties of the citizens, and the duties of the saintly persons. They all are very thoroughly, threadbare, analyzed by Srila Prabhupada in this chapter. Ideally speaking, a king, the first qualification of a king should be that he should be a devotee of the Lord. And he should accept the authority of the saintly persons like Asita, Devala, Vyasa, Narada, such kinds of persons. And even before ascending the throne, he is supposed to seek guidance from them on how to rule the people, how to rule the kingdom. Therefore, even the king of Delhi would go to the Gurukula, when he is a small boy, and study under the guidance of Brahmanas, just like Krishna and Sudama going to the Gurukul. It's not that Krishna is son of Kshatriya, Vasudev, so he was given a royal accommodation or something. They all stayed in the same Gurukula. And they also brought the firewood, they washed, the cleaned the ashrama, they milked the cows. They would do very simple menial activities. Acharan dasavan nicho, gurau sudrida sauhradaha, it is said. So why the kings send their princess to such gurukulas, because right from childhood, young age, they were trained uh, to be able to lead a pure life, devotional life, and understand the duties of the royalty properly, trained by the teachers. And then later on, they can take responsibility when they grow up. And once the king ascends to the throne, then what is his duty? That is also explained. One of the first things that the king should do is to institute Varnashrama. Brahmacharya, Grihastha, Vanaprastha, Sannyas, Brahman, Kshatriya, Vaishya, Shudra. There is a reason behind this. Because if you don't give people activity to do, which is matching with their psychophysical nature, and they are always going to be mentally disturbed. But as soon as they get a fitting work, suiting to their natures, they immediately become peaceful. Even in villages today, you will see people, there are farmers who do farming. There are Brahmanas who study the Vedic literature and they speak on Ramayana, Mahabharata, like that. And then there are panchayat leaders, and there are other corporators. Everybody does their respective work. And then there are also other fellows who are blacksmith and goldsmith, masons, and they do their work. So everybody identifies their nature and their work that fits their nature. That itself brings the mind to a steady state, balance. And then when they offer the fruits to Lord Vishnu, their mind becomes purified. Their life becomes purified. So this is one of the first and foremost duties of any king, to institute the Varnashrama and inspire the Praja to offer the fruits to Lord Vishnu, by doing which they give up all their evil propensities. Then the king also would gather taxes and then do welfare work for the people, both material and spiritual welfare for them. He would do that. And another very important duty of the king is to subdue the rogues and thieves also. Jai Shri Shri Radha Madan Mohan ki, Shri Shri Jagannath Subramanian ki, Shri Gaurnitai ki, Jai. See, in the Srimad Bhagavatam, there is a meeting between Kardama Muni and Swayambhuva Manu. Swayambhuva Manu goes in his chariot to the forest to meet Kardama. So when he gets down from the chariot and goes to bow down to Kardama Muni, at that time Kardama Muni tells him, "Oh, my dear great king, because kings like you have ascended to the chariot and traveling all across the globe and subduing the evil, controlling the rogues and thieves, and letting the Brahmanas perform their religious duties of sacrifices and study of the sacred literatures. Because of you, such a king, dharma is being protected," like that he says. Hearing that, Swayambhuva Manu says, "I often think that I am very materialistic because I am all the time roaming around, traveling, subduing the rogues and thieves, and keeping law and order. I sometimes feel that what am I doing? I am wasting my life. You Brahmanas are like storehouse of austerities. You are always absorbed in study of the scriptures and religious activities, performing sacrifices and things like Yajnadana, Tapashiva, Pavanani, Manishanam. You are absorbed in those activities. But after hearing you, I am getting inspired to perform my duty," he says, of the duty of the king. So both were praising one another. They were praising, Kardama Muni was praising, he was a Brahman, but he was praising the king was a Kshatriya. And the king was a Kshatriya, he was praising the Brahman for Brahmanical activities, which clearly outlines that both activities are important in this world. Brahmanical as well as Kshatriya activities are important. They were performing their respective duties. So in any society, if the king can institute performance of the Varnashrama duties and offering of the fruits to Lord Vishnu, then people in general become peaceful and happy and they don't quarrel with one another. But when the people do not perform their duties as an offering to the Lord, definitely they are going to quarrel with one another. They are trying to loot one another, cheat one another, and the rogues and thieves will increase. In the Srimad Bhagavatam, it is said, what to speak of rogues and thieves in the society, even in the ministerial position, there may be many people who are rogues and thieves. If the king is not alert, even they will exploit the public using the power that they are offered. So therefore, the king is the one who will elect the ministers, not that the ministers were elected by the people. The king was allowed to elect the ministers of his choice, those who are not corrupt, those who will not exploit the public. And then they would ensure that the public is neither exploited by rogues and thieves nor by the ministers. So that was the duty of the king. And all this king could do because he was guided actually by the saintly persons. In not only that, the king would not only allow religion to function, but he would actively take part himself in performing yajnas, presiding the yajnas. With his body, mind and words, it is said the king should take active part in religious activities. That means it's not that, okay, if Brahmanas want to chant, let them chant. No. They would institute yajnas and king would be personally, he will throw away everything else and come and sit down and take part in the sacrifices and worship of the Lord. And for him also, just like we hear about Ambarish Maharaj, Savai Manak Krishna Padara Vindiyor, Pacham Vaikunta Gunan Varnane, Karu Harer Mandira Marjanadishu, which means the king personally cleansed the temple. Can you imagine how much the kings valued the presence of Supreme Lord? So therefore, people in general, like we say, Yatha Raja Tata Praja, they followed the king. They could follow that model of the king. So these were duties of the king. And in the same manner, there are duties of the saints also. Prabhupada says that like if you see, karmis in general are in this world is struggling hard to make money and maintain a big bank balance. And the jnanis in general are aloof from society. They go to Himalayas and they work for their own salvation. But the Vaishnavas are people who are interested to see the people in society happy, peaceful and happy. So they actually work for the welfare of the society, Prabhupada says. But how do they work? Not that they try to occupy political positions and try to maneuver or control. Prabhupada says that they work for the people in general by distributing the religious and spiritual activities like performance of yajna, chanting of the holy name, worship of the Lord in the temple, and distribution of prasadam, distribution of the chanting of the holy name through Harinam Sankirtan, distribution of spiritual literature. So in this way, the Vaishnavas live in the midst of society and work for the welfare of the people in society, Prabhupada says. So this is the duty of the saintly people. Otherwise, the saintly person, sometimes the saintly person also is interested to see who is the king going to lead the society. Why? Because he knows that the king has the political power, the king has influence over the people, and the king is seen as a leader by all the people. So if he is a pious personality and he is a religious person, he is a godly person or a God-fearing person, that would be an advantage to the society. In that sense, the saintly people are interested in knowing who is the king. But otherwise, they have no interest in political post or position. They wish to see the king do his religious duties. That is their interest. So, here in this particular pastime, we find that the people who were bereft of the king, Vena, not Vena, I mean, bereft of the king Anga, who was Vena's father. Anga, actually, you heard about Anga in the previous chapter. What a wonderful king he was. He was such a noble king. Even with his mind, he did not commit any offense to anybody. The reason is he was a pure devotee of the Lord. See, the kings would do religious activities. Why? So that they can evade the three gunas. They will not become afflicted by Rajaguna, Tamaguna, Sattaguna. They can surpass the gunas by performing Sagunan, Samatitaitan, Brahma Bhuyaya Kalpate. They could keep themselves on that elevated platform by performance of devotional service, always. And that's how Anga was. He was perfectly practicing devotional service. But then his son Vena turned out to be a crook. So he left the kingdom and absconded overnight. Now the Brahmanas, all of them came and they were worried. Now their main concern became this, how to save the people from rogues and thieves. So they wanted someone to substitute the post. Like we say, a blind uncle is better than no uncle. Therefore, they considered making his son Vena the king. Although Vena was not at all qualified for that post. They knew very well that he is a sinful wretch And even as a small kid, he would pick up the other children and throw them in the ocean. Very dangerous fellow. And a lot of complaints came to the king. And therefore, King Anga got fed up and went to the forest. So, nevertheless, the saints considered Vena as a probable king. What they thought amongst themselves was, sometimes when you give a position to somebody and then offer them good advice, they may follow. Because he may have affection for the Brahmins that they gave me a post. They elevated me. So out of respect for them, he may change his behavior. That was their expectation. And he may become, because there is a possibility that people may change. Like we say, yata kanchanatam jati kamsyam rasa vidanataha tata diksha vidanena dvijatvam jayate nrinam. It is said. If you put a iron piece in a alchemy solution, it turns into gold. So they also thought that maybe we can preach to him nicely and give him Krishna consciousness. Maybe he'll become a devotee. He'll become transformed. And that was not to happen because this fellow was very crooked and not interested at all. There's one shloka where he says, na yashtavyam, na datavyam, he says, na hotavyam, kadachana, he says, which means, he says, take the bheri and play it all over my kingdom and make announcement that nobody should do yajna, nobody should offer clarified butter in the sacrificial fire, and no mantra should be chanted. Like that he said. He said, if anybody is found to be doing that, they are liable to punishment at once. This is the kind of announcement he made. Later on, he tells the Brahmanas that I am God and everybody should worship me. That was his conclusion. Vena. So, the public was very much disturbed because on one hand, there was Vena type of king who was actually stopping all religious activities, pious activities. He was not giving chance to the public to purify their heart by chanting and study of scriptures and Brahminical activities. On the other hand, the public was troubled by the rogues and thieves. So, if the king won't be there, the rogues and thieves will exploit them. If the king would be there, then he exploited them. So the public became like, it's like an ant which is caught in a log of wood. Imagine there is fire this side, fire that side. Caught between devil and deep sea. That was the situation of the public. And that was witnessed by the Brahmins. They saw it. Masses of people are suffering terribly. Earlier they suffered from rogues and thieves. Now the thieves are all afraid of Vena. They have been put to rest now. But then another type of trouble has started, which is even considered more dangerous than what the thieves and rogues were doing. Thieves and rogues can only loot your material property. But Vena is looting the spiritual property of the people, which is more dangerous. So, yeah. So, therefore, the Brahmanas assembled together. And the Brahmanas actually became very worried and fearful that because we elected him as a king, sin will come upon us if he is teaching irreligion. So, it is a high time. We can't afford to, go on like this. They went together. They will go and speak to Vena. But Vena was not a person who would pay any heed to good advice. Vinashakali viparita buddhi. He had a viparita buddhi, kubuddhi. So by their own dissatisfaction, the Brahmanas, like that one word, one sound they made and he was finished. And Vena was finished. So Prabhupada says in Kali Yuga, all the things have lost their potency, he says. For example, even the medicinal herbs don't work, many of the medicinal herbs. Even many of the small children are wearing spectacles nowadays, you find, isn't it? And they have such weak bodies, people slip from the floor here and immediately they get a fracture. You find that. Just 2 steps below, not that they fell from a height or something. Because the bodies are so weak, fragile. Similarly, people don't know to chant the mantras with proper pronunciation. And the Brahmanas cannot curse the sinful rogues because this is the age of sinful people, Kali Yuga. So even by a curse, they will not be able to finish them like the way the Brahmanas could finish in the past. So with all these things in place, Prabhupada says, the Brahmanas in Kali Yuga, their foremost duty is to propagate the chanting of the holy name. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare. Prabhupada says this is the greatest good we can do. So, but at that time, the Brahmanas were very powerful. They could enthrone a king and dethrone a king. They could do both. Now in Kali Yuga, you have to enthrone or dethrone anybody. There will be a big group of people will be required. They will all consider all pros and cons, so many things. In the Vedic times, the election was not done based on democracy. It was done, democracy was there, but by the bureaucrats. They will come and elect the king, the Brahmanas, who are intelligent in study of Shastra. The reason why democracy was not there at that time, the populace is majorly, you will find, in a Vedic society, if you take 1,000 people, there is 1 Brahmana, 9 Kshatriyas, 90 Vaishyas, and 900 Shudras. This is the proportion. So the majority is the labor. And they like to drink, smoke, and go to cinema theaters. So if you tell them to vote, you can imagine whom will they vote for. Actually, they are likely to vote for someone who will promote these things. On the contrary, there was only 1 Brahmana and 9 Kshatriyas, which means there was a body of Brahmanas who would elect the king. And the Brahmana's election of the king would be based on how the leader can institute religious principles for the welfare of society. First thing, you ask a Brahmana, what should be the first qualification? He will say he should be a devotee of God. Then what else? He should be a man of character. Then what else? He should be respectful to the saintly authority and the Vedic literatures. What else? He should actually have the maturity to combine boldness and sensitivity, courage and considerate behavior. You should have you should actually be able to reconcile the contradictions while making decisions. And you should actually follow in the footsteps of Guru Sadhu Shastra. All these things are considered very important for a king. You should be very competent. You should be very chivalrous also to subdue the evil forces in the society. So all that was seen. Unlike the modern times where a large mass of people may elect somebody who will open a cinema theater in their village or open a liquor shop or something like that. So, therefore, the Brahmanas thought that we are a small group of people who have elected the king, and sin will overcome us if the king is not doing his duty. Actually, king also will become afflicted by 1/6 of the bad karma of the praja. And those who elect him also will suffer. I was reading in the section of Prithu Maharaj. Prithu Maharaj actually called all the citizens and gave a talk to them. And all the Brahmanas, he had given them elevated seats to sit. After giving them instructions to citizens, very beautiful instruction. He told them that, in this world, there are people who are handsome, people who are ugly, there are people who are rich, people who are poor, people who are educated, uneducated. Why this disparity in this world? And that is because of karma, good karma and bad karma. And if there is a good karma, bad karma, and the consequences for those actions, there must be a good luck awarder, bad luck awarder in the top, and that is Ishwar. So when he spoke about Ishwar, there were some elements in the praja who were little envious because they were followers of Vena, it is said. So he didn't mind. He went on to speak the truth very boldly. Chara chitra padam slakshnam gudam vrishtam aviklavam sarvesham upakarartam tada anuvadanniva. There's a verse which says, he spoke words with such clarity, such purity, with such purpose, and in a very easy to understand manner, with similes and metaphors. He spoke very beautifully, and all the praja appreciated. But then he turned to the Vaishnavas and Brahmanas side and told them, although I have given my instructions to praja, you have to approve them. Whether they are perfect or not, I don't know. And if there is any corrections, you please feel confident to correct me. And then he said, the instructor, the follower, and the approver, all three will share the karma, he says. Because, you may say, for approving, I just have to put a sign, that's all. Like somebody told me when I was hurrying to airport, somebody brought a plain white paper, they brought, said, please can you sign here? I asked, what for? No, whatever is written, we will write later. Now you sign and go. I said, I cannot sign unless I know what is going to come here. How can I sign in a blank white paper, isn't it? So, because approving person as well as the instructing person and the following person, they all share the karma, he says. So therefore the Brahmanas thought that we have approved the kingship of Vena. Therefore, the sins that will come upon Vena will also be shared by us, unless we instruct him properly. So that's why Now they will go on to instruct him in the subsequent verses. But here the talk, what is going on here, when the government is very strong, all thieves and rogues disappear or hide themselves. Of course, Vena was not a very good king, but he was known to be cruel and severe. Thus the state at least became freed from thieves and rogues. Not that he was a good government. He didn't put up a good government. People were afraid of his cruel nature. Nrishamsa, we call it. I'll show you one section of 10th canto about Kamsa. See, this is coming in the 10th canto. Nisrishtaha kilame mrityur devair vaikunta samsharehi. He's saying, this is Kamsa speaking. Yeah. Tavanaya samam gopair nandadyai swabhipayanaihi. He's telling that, especially he's calling Akrura and speaking to him. The demigods who are under the protection of Vishnu have sent these two boys, Krishna Balaram, as my death. Bring them here, and also have Nanda and other covered men come with gifts of tribute, is calling. Now you look at his cruel nature, you will see now in the coming verses. He's saying, Ghata Yishyaihani tau kala kalpena hastina yadi muktau tato mallair ghata ye vaidyatopamaihi. He's saying, I will kill these two boys who are hiding in the bushes of Vrindavan. And when they come here with one Hastina, with he's saying with the elephant, Kubalaya Pida. When they come at the entrance itself, they will be finished by this elephant. And in case the elephant allows them to go free, elephant is as powerful as death. In case they escape the elephant, he says, I will have them killed by Chanar, Mushtik. In case Chanar, Mushtik are defeated, then Shala, Toshala. Such kinds of powerful wrestlers I have, who are as strong as lightning. With them I will kill, he's saying. He's telling to Akrura. Sanatana Goswami says here, what is the purpose of bringing them? I will have them killed by my elephant, as powerful as death. And they will not escape. If they do, I will use wrestlers to kill. Like that he's comparing. And then he's saying, Tayo nihatayo staptan vasudeva purogaman tad bandhun nihanishyami vrishni bhoja dasharhakan. He's saying that when Krishna Balaram are finished, then Vasudeva and other relatives, they will become weak. And I will find it very easy to destroy them. Like that he's in a destroying mode. And then he's saying, see what he says, Ugrasenam chapitaram staviram rajyakamukam. He's actually criticizing Ugrasena. He's saying, my father Ugrasena is staviram, he's saying, is old. And he is rajyakamukam, he's saying. He is greedy for the Rajya, kingdom, he's saying. Tad brataram devakam cha ye chanye vidvisho mama. And his brother Devaka, all these fellows I will finish, he's saying. He's saying vidvisho mama, he is envious of me, he's saying. See, this is the mentality of cruel people, you see. He is considering all good people to be like Ugrasenam, Chapitaram, Staviram, Rajakamakam, he says, talking about Devaka also, vidvisho mama. Because he is considering like that. Devaki's father, also he is envious, he is thinking. All are my enemies, I'll finish all of them, he says. And then he's saying, Tadaschaisha mahi mitra bhavitri nashtakantaka. He's saying, after that, my friend, the earth will be free of all taunts. He's saying, who is a taunt? He is a taunt actually. He's thinking others to be taunts now. And then Akrura is asking a question. But I am a Bhoja also. Am I not their friends? He's asking. And then Kamsa is telling, no, you are my friend, you are my benefactor, and I'll give you a part of my kingdom to you, don't worry. He's telling the Akrura like that. He is thinking Akrura is his minister, but actually Akrura is Krishna's pure devotee, isn't it? And then he is saying, Jarasandho mama gurur dvido daitas saka. See, Jarasandha, somebody, and Akrura is asking, what about Jarasandha? He's a very powerful, mighty man. He is saying, Jarasandha mama gurur. Oh, he is my senior, he is my superior. And he has given his two daughters in marriage to me. Who are they? Asti and Prapti. So therefore, he is my well-wisher. So instead of killing him, I will make friendship with him. And who other friends I have? Dvivido Daita Saka. Oh, Dvivida is my very dear and favorite friend, he's saying. Dvivida. Because Dvivida had a tremendous strength to create trouble with picking up mountain peaks and throwing in ocean, things like that he would do. And Shambaro Narako Bano Mayeva Krata Sauhrudaha. He's saying Shambara, Naraka, Bana, they're all my heart-to-heart friends, he's saying. So the birds of the same feather flock together, we say, no? He's saying like that. Hatva, Bokshe, Mahim, Dripan, he's saying. And then he's saying that with all these associates of mine, I will kill off those kings who are allied with demigods, and then I will rule the earth, he's saying. How will the world be without taunts if Jarasandha and others are present? Somebody may ask. So he's saying, he's my elder, he's guru, like that he's saying. Etad jnatvanaya kshipram Rama Krishna viharbakau. He's calling them as Arbaka, children. He's saying, Etad jnatva anaya kshipram. Don't tell these secrets to anybody, he's saying about Akrura, that don't tell Krishna Balaram that I'm going to finish them in we think a Kolepida or by the Mallas. Don't tell these things. Ramakrishna Viha Arbakau Dhanur Mukha Nirikshartham Drashtum Jadupurashriyam. You only tell the Vijavasis that they are being invited for watching the Dhanur Makha means the sacrifice where there is bow placed. Nirikshanartham, just for watching. For watching purpose, just for witnessing the beautiful festival, we can invite them. And they are welcome with everybody. Let them bring. They can come and see the opulence. And see the opulence of the Elder's capital. Therefore, we are inviting, like that is saying. You should not tell secret plot to others, he's saying. Bring those two foolish children, he's saying. They are hiding behind the bush in Vrindavan. We are not able to kill. Once they are brought here, it will be very easy. And also he's saying the bow sacrifice and splendor of the city will be attractive to boys coming from the forest, he's saying. Because Vrindavan forest will be boring. Here they will see the city, all this beauty. In Hari Vamsha, there is a nice sloka, he says, Vachaschananda gopo vai karam adaya varshikam. Varshika karam means yearly tax. Ask Nandagopa to bring the yearly tax also. Tell him. Shigram agaccha nagaram gopai sarvai samanvitaha. Quickly tell him to come to this city, accompanied by his associates, he's saying. Krishna sankarshanau chaiva vasude vasuta bhubhau. Ask them to definitely come with Krishna and Balaram, who are Vasudev's sons. Ask, make sure that they come. Drashtumichati vai kamsaha sabratya sau purohitaha. Actually, tell him that Kamsa is eager to see all of you. Yeto yuddha vidau range kala nirmana yodhinau dridap pratikriti chaiva shrinomi vyayatodyamau. Actually, see, Kamsa is thinking how intelligent he is. He is putting up a festival and he is inviting them like guests, watching the festival. But his goal is to finish Krishna Balaram. Asmakam apimallau dvau sajjau yuddha kritotsavau tabhyam saha niyotsyete tau yuddha kushalabhubhau. He's saying, on my side I have this mallas ready. They are very expert in the Malyuddha. And they will nihotsye, I will destroy these two children, Krishna Balaram, by using them. Like that he's saying. Like that it goes on. So, he is constantly meditating in his mind about Krishna and Balaram. That is his only glory. But the point is what? You will find Kamsa's nature, his cruelty. Those who are highly respectable, like his father, Ugrasenam, and Devaka, what he is speaking about them, and he is naming his associates, we can see that. So, these are all symptoms of cruel-hearted king. Like you find also later on, ministers gave him ill advice, due to which Kamsa ordered to kill all the children born in 10 days. Before 10 days or before 1 month. So he thought even if hundreds of them are killed, no problem. Because Such a fellow is only selfishly thinking about his own welfare. He is not thinking about the welfare of people at all. So, what lesson we can learn from this cruel nature of Vena? In the Bhagavatam, if you want to do Shuddha Bhakti, it very clearly mentions 3 verses which talk about Bhakti in 3 gunas. So, the lowest guna, which is Tamaguna, there are 5 bad natures mentioned. Abhisandaya yohimsam dambam matsaryameva va samrambi binna drigbhavam sabhakti tamasamuchyate. It says, abhisandaya yohimsam, violence, dambam, false pride, matsaryam, envy, para utkarsha asahanam is matsaryam, and samrambi, anger, and binna drigbhavam. Although Lord is compassionate, people in Tamaguna are cruel. So therefore, these 5 qualities are said. So every devotee who wants to advance to Shuddha Bhakti should avoid consciously these 5 things. Violence, false pride, envy, anger, and separatist mentality of being cruel. Then in Rajoguna, there are 2 qualities specifically mentioned. Many are there. There are 5, 6 are there, but these 2 are very prominent. Like in Gita, Lord Krishna mentions Dambo, Darpo, Abhimanascha, Krodha, Parushyameva. There also he says, Ajnanam Chabhijatasya Partha Sampadam Asurim. There also he says. But 2 are very main for Rajoguna. Palakankshi, very, very intense greed for fruitive mentality. And another one is floating in the success of false pride. Floating in success leading to false pride. So people in Rajoguna should give up the false pride when they succeed. And when they don't succeed, they should give up the greed for success. So they have to, greed comes before success and false pride comes after success. False pride comes after success. So these 2 should be given up. And then when it comes to Sattva Guna, one actually desires to leave the fruitive mentality. But in return to that, one wants liberation from suffering. Whereas when one comes to Vishuddha Sattva, we don't even want liberation also. We are willing to accept sufferings for the pleasure of Lord. Tomara sevaya dukkha hayato sahita paramasuka, he's saying. So it's actually a sampada, he's saying. It's a wealth for a devotee. So from Vena's behavior, we see Rajoguna, Tamaguna in top-notch action here in his character. So we are trying to become devotees. As devotees, we have to notice these qualities, which are actually qualities which enrage the superiors, enrage the Brahmanas. If one enrages the Brahmanas and doesn't receive the blessing, how can he advance? One should not enrage the great souls. If one makes the great souls unhappy, then one cannot draw the blessings. That's what happened to Vena. Vena got destroyed because of his evil mentality. So the beauty of Srimad Bhagavatam is it teaches us ideal kings, role model kings, and it also teaches us those who are condemnable personalities also, so that we can learn both what to do and what not to do. Both are taught like that. Granthraj Srimad Bhagavatam ki, Srila Prabhupada ki. So Prabhupada purports in this chapter are very, very important for all leaders. This 14th chapter of the 4th canto. So I would suggest that all the devotees leisurely read this chapter and draw some lessons for our everyday application in our leadership, in our performance of our duties. Because here duties are given for everybody, for the kings, for the saints, and for the general people, for all 3 giving. Thank you very much. Hare Krishna.